Okay, so Sahana bhavato sahana bhunakto saviryam karavavahe tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah. Harihi Om. So welcome everyone. So today we're going to talk about divine love and our relationship with Ishwara. So Ishwara, we can take Ishwara to mean, I'll be using various names to refer to Ishwara, and they're all one. And well, I would sometimes use the word Bhagavan, Ishwara, Lord, or God. Okay, so we'll suspend other definitions or whatever, but we'll go with these words that I'll be using. I will just substitute one for the other. And so, okay. So now, well, basically, when we look at something like a lovely painting or a lovely sculpture, the first thing we ask is, oh, what is it? And then, oh, who's done it? Who, it's so beautiful, or not, but who is behind this painting? I mean, obviously, when we see this painting, we know there's been something there. There's been some materials, there's been some color, watercolor, whatever has been used. There's been the canvas and everything else. But then we know that there is someone behind it. Okay, so if we, and also I've just brought this one about vegetables there. So, you know, we can bring all the ingredients, but then nothing happens to the ingredients until somebody does something with them, right? So if we leave the ingredients in the kitchen, no meals get cooked by itself. So behind everything that happens, there is what we call an intelligent cause. So there would be someone behind that. So behind that brilliant meal, there would be somebody who's put it all together, right? So there'll be the use of fire to cook it, there'll be use of water, there'll be use of all the elements, and there'll be all the lovely vegetables, but then somebody needs to put it all together, otherwise nothing happens. Similarly with the painting, with the sculpture, so when we see a beautiful baby or a kitten, we know that they've just not appeared. They would have a mother and a father, and that's how they've appeared. So that's how we know life, so similarly, when we see the world around us, the creation, it is not possible to assume that it just happens. Okay, something needs to be behind it for it to happen. So it is not, it just happened. Something random happened and it's chaos. And it's not something like that. So behind the creation, behind the world, there is a creator. And that's what we accept. And it's very difficult to kind of not accept this. And obviously science doesn't like to accept this, but then as we know, science is not the only way to kind of try and study the truth. So where we are coming from is from the scriptures, from the Vedas, and this is one of the starting points, is that behind the creation there is the creator and there is the observer. So the people who are actually asking all these questions, who are interested in these, who is this I, who is the subject in all this. So we know about the world around us, but we don't know about who we really are, and the creator behind this creation, if you like. So therefore, we have to accept the law of cause and effect. And if we accept the law of cause and effect, then we would need to know, then we will have to accept a creator. Except that in this case, well, as we've seen, there is a material cause, so which are all your ingredients. And then there is the efficient cause, which is the chef putting it all together. But in this case, in the case of Ishwara and the creation, Ishwara is the first cause, and the uncaused cause is the cause of whom we don't know, and has no beginning. And that's the bit that we have to, that is slightly different perhaps. And so the cause is Ishwara, and also the effect is Ishwara, and Ishwara manifests itself in terms of the universe. So what we see around us, the world that we experience on a daily basis, what is making it possible to interact with each other at the moment, is this creative power of Ishwara, which is sometimes referred to as Maya. So this is how Ishwara manifests. So similarly, when a chef is cooking, is putting things together to create this wonderful dish, the chef knows exactly what goes in, right? So when we are tasting it, we might not know exactly what goes in. Sometimes we do. Some of the ingredients we might be able to guess. Some of the more subtle one we might not be able to discern what they are. But the person making the dish will certainly have an idea of what they've put in. They will have full knowledge of how this has been made. Whether they remember it 5 minutes later is another story, but at least they do have full knowledge. So similarly, the creator has full knowledge of the universe, without which you cannot create all these perfect beings, all this perfect world that we live in. And one of the greatest miracle that we've talked about is probably the very close to us, the human body in which we experience the world. So the human body, you know, and a lot of people refer to it and saying, well, it just happens, you know, breathing just happens, everything just happens, but there is no such thing as just happens. So there is a creator there, and the more we look into it, the more we recognize it as a miracle and as something quite special, with a very, very intelligent creator behind it all. And when we look at how the whole world works, so how nature works, so nature doesn't work by itself. There's a creator behind nature. And so this all wonderful, how does a bird know that it's got wings and it can fly? All these intelligent things that are in everybody's in everybody's being. So there is DNA and all that, but how did you get there? So this is what we are trying to kind of look. So this sometimes, well, we refer to Ishwara as the all-knowing. And the reason for that is because having created the universe, then Ishwara possesses all the knowledge about this universe. So this is a bit beyond what we can imagine, and this is quite something special. But then that's why we say God knows everything, or God is everywhere in this creation. So today what I want to do is really looking at various aspects of the divine, And so I have kind of tried to explain this with 4 different points, just in a way as how we experience it. So this is not according to any theory, in fact, but it's obviously based on the Vedas. So everything that is manifest is the manifestation of Ishwara. So the world goes in a cycle. So it takes a very, very long time. So the world always exists. So that, again, there is law of physics to explain that. So nothing can be destroyed, or but we can change form from one to another. So here, what it says is that when the world is not manifest, it still exists, except that we can't see it. And one way to think about it is that if you see the seed or the of a tree, so you can see a tiny seed, and that has got the potential of becoming a tree, but you can't actually see the tree right now because it hasn't germinated to become the tree. So, but it is there. The potential of becoming a tree lies in that seed. So similarly, with the world, the potential is always there within Ishwara. And then when the creation happens, then things become manifest, and that's where we kind of in the way we are, we experience various things. And then there is when life is being sustained, which is what it is now, and then there will be a point in the cycle where it gets dissolved again. So that's not tomorrow, that's not in a few years' time, but that's in, you know, in a lot of time. But it then goes into this state where it is unmanifest back into Ishwara. Okay, so this is the process, and everything comes from Ishwara and everything goes back to Ishwara, and everything that we see is the creation of Ishwara. So I have so there is, and what my teacher always says, there is nothing but God. So there is only Ishwara, because everything is a manifestation of Ishwara. So the way the scriptures talk about this recognition of divinity in our lives as well, in very many ways. So when you're referring to yourself, when you're pointing to yourself, sometimes, you know, or when you're pointing to yourself, where do you point? So do you want to just have a go at pointing? Okay. Yeah. So you don't point to your feet, do you? You don't point to your head, even though you might be really intellectual and very clever. Okay. So most of us would point to our heart. And there might be a very subconscious reason for this, and this is because according to the Vedas and the Upanishads, where we feel this divine is in the well, it's not necessarily the physical heart there, but it's around this area, and this is where we experience the Atma that we are. Okay, so this Atma is who we are. So as we know, as we've been studying for over a year now, so we are not this body, we're not this mind, we're not this intellect. Okay, so we are actually this Atma, which is Sat-Chit Ananda. So and that's in the cave of our heart, and that's how it is described. So, and also what the Upanishads say is that every organ in the body is presided by a different deity. So various faculties that we have, being able to see, being able to hear, or our hands on the tip of the fingers, and there are deities residing there. So whatever happened comes from this prana, from this from God, and every organ even within our body is presided by a deity, because nothing just happens, and that's how this is experienced. So I'm just going to well, there is, I mean, I'm just going to mention it for those who know. And so there is, for instance, the Devi Kavach Stotram that we have looked before, and talks about the various bits of the where the goddess lives within ourselves. And this is one way where we kind of can recite this and actually start to understand this idea and actually conceptualize this idea that everything is presided by a deity, and everything is, it's not physically in that way, but this is how the order of Ishwara works. So in the Vedic culture, so from the time we get up to the time we sleep, everything that we do is for Ishwara, and everything can connect us to Ishwara. So basically, in the life of somebody who is following the Vedic lifestyle, so the first thing when you get up, you put your feet on the floor and you ask for forgiveness to Goddess Lakshmi for stepping on her to start your day. And that's the sacred earth that you're stepping on to perform your duties. Then the next things you will be chanting mantras when you're brushing your teeth, when you're having your shower, and various rituals to observe when going to the toilet. And also then once that is done, then there is giving water to the sun, and offering water to the sun in a very particular way, thanking the sun and doing namaskar to the sun, offering gratitude for being there. And then, you know, the time goes on like this, the day goes on, and so then there are the prayers, the daily prayers that happen, and then there is probably recitation of mantras, and then there is also meditation, and then starting your day with some breakfast perhaps, and then again worshipping the food and recognizing this food as Brahma itself, or as the divine that's getting into you to help you achieve your divine purpose. So basically, in a way like this, we can actually invite this divinity into our lives, into our every action. And then there is also this idea of recognizing everyone as the divine. So everyone, even the person you don't like, even the person who's causing you a lot of trouble at work, and is to really, at least intellectually in our case, start recognizing that everyone is Ishwara. And in the scriptures, it talks about where in the Ramayana, for instance, there is Tulsidas who says, I think it is, I can't remember exactly who, and says, in the world all I see is Sri Ram. So Sri Ram as Ishwara. So that's all I can see in the world is Sri Ram, is Ishwara everywhere. So this is also a very nice practice and to do, to kind of recognize this. Sorry. Okay, so then as we also do this, the good thing is about doing this practice is with other human beings, when we do this, it becomes very easy to forgive people. It is very easy to separate the fact that people are doing certain things, but it is some of their attributes that are making them do this. It is helpful to kind of see these things about others. It helps us to develop compassion to others, because we know that they are all part of the divine, even though they might not be acting like that at that particular time, or maybe they are. And it also helps us to love ourselves, because we know we are this divine manifestation. So we are not this, you know, sometimes people have got people telling them, oh, you're not worth this, you're not, you know, you're terrible or whatever. But then once we know that we are the divine, it gives us this confidence that actually it doesn't matter what people say or think of us, because that's not what we are. We know we are the divine, and that's end of story. It doesn't mean that we behave perfectly all the time, but at least it gives us a very, very good foundation to build on, as we're not worthless. We might be doing some actions that are not great at some point, and that's okay. But then fundamentally, it's really, really important. And a lot of people who have self-worth problems or issues, and this is a lot, this is a lot where it comes from, in the fact that we don't recognize ourselves as this complete being and as this divine. So, and also when this feeling happens, it becomes very difficult to hurt others. It becomes very difficult to do bad things to others or say bad things to others. And similarly with Mother Nature, if we know that Mother Nature is Ishwara, then we will not be doing terrible things to Mother Nature, as in looting her and doing all sorts of things that people do and treating her with disrespect. And as we all know in this culture, so we pray to the rivers, we pray to all the source of water and to Mother Nature. And so again, it is this recognition of everything being divine, and all beings are divine. And so that is something to think about, and how to welcome Ishwara in our lives. So the second point I wanted to talk about was Ishwara as preserver. So Ishwara has created the world, and Ishwara is still here, very much present at every minute, to preserve this creation. So Ishwara doesn't want this creation to go. We obviously have our bit to do, but then Ishwara is here, and Ishwara is here to help us and to look after us. So this is also very, very important to know that we are here, we are protected, and it's very helpful if we appreciate this on a daily basis in our lives. We get to that point where we can appreciate this. So, for instance, a little child is normally very stress-free. They're not worried about what will happen tomorrow. They're not worried about their future. They're not worried about whether they're going to get their next meal. I mean, generally. And they're not worried about all these things. And why? Because they have total faith in their parents. They have total faith that the mother will take care of them, the father will take care of them. And I know there are exceptions, but generally speaking. So children have got that total trust in their parents, and they don't even need to think about all this. They just think, you know, whenever they need something, they just go to the parents, and they know that they will be taken care of. So similarly, for us, there is Ishwara, and it is great when we get to a point where we can actually think, well, actually, we don't need to worry about what happens. It doesn't mean we get completely lazy and don't do anything, and we still need to fulfill our duties. We still need to do what we need to do. But beyond that, all the things that we worry about is like, oh, I don't know what will happen, don't know when this COVID will go, and I don't know what will happen when I retire. I don't know what will happen when I get my next job. And, so obviously, I'm not saying don't plan for these things, don't have a plan of your own. But what I'm saying is that, we've lived to however many years we all have lived now, and things have always worked out in some way, maybe not in the way we wanted it to, but things have always worked out. And it's kind of saying, well, have that trust in Ishwara that things will still work out. So basically, as long as we follow dharma meaning fulfilling our duties, leading a righteous life, and turn to the divine, we have nothing to worry about. So just trusting in a way that we feel protected, and we don't have to be stressed about what happens next. And also recognizing everything as the blessing of Ishwara. So whatever happens because God is willing for it to happen. and in some cultures, in the Muslim culture, people use the phrase inshallah, if God willing, a lot. So again, where that comes from is that recognition that everything that happens is God's will in certain ways, and therefore to really recognize this as this. So okay. Yeah, okay. So now also I just want to say here is that I will come back to this point, just that Ishwara it hasn't got an agenda, a hidden agenda, hasn't got plans that are, that are dodgy, and Ishwara is there for us. And that's something that takes a while to understand, but once we understand it, it's really very helpful. Okay, so going to the third point. So as we've said, is that everything is names and forms. Everything essentially is Ishwara, but all we can see and experience are names and forms of Ishwara. So we see a lot of the differences in the world, but a realized person only recognizes Ishwara. And by accepting everything as Ishwara, we realize that everything is just as it should be. So in this world, there is not just good things, there is bad things, there is ugly things, and there's very good things as well. So everything is in the order of Ishwara. So, like waste, body waste that we generate, everything is part of the order, is in the order of Ishwara. So the world consists of everything. And this is how it is. And this is just beautiful and works perfectly well. So again, accepting everything as Ishwara, then once we accept this, the next step is to kind of work on accepting this fact that all these things exist in this world. And that's also a lot of it is to do with our own doings, which we'll come back to, but then it is part of this world. Okay, so and also just to go back to some of the other stotram that we have recited before with some of you, Ishwara in the different forms, Ishwara in the forms of hunger, Ishwara in the form of everything else. So I'm talking about of the Devi. Devi Suktam that we've been reciting, some of us. So this is again, everything is Ishwara. So then there is a place for everyone and everything in this creation. So there is a place in our garden for the weed. The weed is there for a reason. It doesn't mean that we have to put up with it. It doesn't mean, but it just means they are there for a reason, and everything is there because it has got a place in this world. And what that actually implies is that nobody is superior. There is a place for everyone in this world, no matter how big they are and no matter how small they are. So there is a nice little story here, if I can remember it correctly. So in the Ramayana, where the big bridge between Sri Lanka and India, let's say, was being constructed for Rama to go and rescue his wife on the other side. So there were big rocks that were being put. And then there was a little squirrel that was trying to kind of help as well, and with little pebbles. I mean, you can imagine a squirrel not being able to carry big things. And then somebody was kind of saying to the squirrel, but you can't even carry anything big. What do you think you're doing? And then Rama said, well, actually, in between your big rocks, you need little ones to keep it in place. If you just have big rocks and nothing to bind it all together, it will not work. So then the story goes that, you know, the two marks that you can see on the squirrel is like the blessing of Rama to recognize this ability of the squirrel. So the story just illustrates that, you know, sometimes we might feel, oh, we are superior or whatever, and, you know, but that's not the case. Everything in this creation is as valuable as we are, and we're all got our own functions to do, and that is very, very helpful. And I mean, in the world today, there is a lot of arrogance. There are a lot of people who think they're better than others. And, you know, there is a lot of these things going on. And it is very helpful to try and to kind of get this idea that everyone here has got a place. Nobody's a waste of space. Everyone here has got their own role. And so once we get to that stage where we start understanding these things, so we can only start understanding these things when our inner instruments, so this is your mind, this is your intellect, which is what I mean by inner instruments here, when they get purified, when they get to a certain level where we make room for this kind of knowledge to go. Okay, so basically what happens is that if you've got a cup full of tea here, if you kind of keep pouring, it will overfill, and you won't have any of the new tea there. So similarly, in our minds and our intellect, there is a lot of things that we need to take out of our system. There are loads of thoughts that we need to get out of, a lot of patterns of thinking, and so that we have space for this knowledge to come. And the truth is, a lot of people are not interested, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine. We respect that. But what we're trying to say is that once we get attuned to on this path, wherever we are on this path a little bit, we will start recognizing this. We will start understanding these things. We will make space to understand these things, at least intellectually to begin with. And then once this happens, we then recognize the world and circumstances as perfect, right? So what I'm trying to say here is that, you know, we won't sort of say, oh, once COVID is over, then life will be beautiful. Okay, so this is not how it works. You know, COVID is part of life. We cope with it, we deal with it, and we make life worthwhile and beautiful every day. And because after COVID, who knows what will happen? You know, we don't really know. And there are just so many things in the external world that we haven't got any control of. So waiting for circumstances to be great for us to be happy is waiting forever, because nothing will ever be in the way we want them to be. Okay, so that is one thing to understand. So once we start recognizing the world as this beautiful world, everything is as it should be, nature is beautiful, and everything is just so perfect. We start recognizing the miracles around us, the little things that happens to us, our body, the way it functions, and worshiping it, recognizing it, being grateful for it, and all these things, then really life changes. So what I wanted to say here is I've put in bracket within boundaries. Okay, so when I'm saying the world is perfect, it doesn't mean that you know, we have to accept everything and we have to know, we have to have the knowledge and the discrimination to understand what is right and what is wrong. Okay, so if somebody's throwing stones at you, you can't say the world is perfect. You have to stop it. You have to take a stand and say, well, stop doing this. You have to go and get shelter. Or, you know, there are some things that we can't accept. We don't accept abuse. We don't accept, you know, certain things. So we've got to find our boundaries, right? So when I mean the world is perfect, I'm not, or circumstances are perfect, it is within boundaries. So we, there are some things that we can't accept as perfect, and we know they are wrong and we need to do something about them. We all have a duty collectively to do something about them. Okay, and we know that. We know when that happens. Okay, so that's what I mean within boundaries. So now the next bit I wanted to talk about is the role of Ishwara in our daily life as the giver of fruits of our actions. So basically, this relates to the karma theory, which states to us that whatever we experience is, or the circumstances of our birth and whatever is happening to us in this life is the product of what has happened before. So if you like, they are the fruits of actions that we have performed in the past. We don't know what they are. We don't know when they happen. It could have happened in the last birth. It could have happened 100 births ago, 1,000 births ago. We don't know, right? But this is what has happened. So the family that you're born in, you might think you've not chosen them, but then you're born there because of a certain reason, because of this karmic connection. So, therefore, and also we have looked at these at the theory of karma. So you can go back and look at the talk. But what we were saying is that there is this big accumulation. Sorry, I keep seeing people disappear and then come back. So I'm hoping there are not too much internet problems. The fruit of, well, if we had explained karma in terms of apples, of the accumulation of apples, right? So we talked about red apples and green apples. So the red apples are the actions that gives us pleasurable experiences, and the sour apples are the results of actions that we've performed in the past that gives us actions that we don't really like, that feel a bit unpleasant to us. So how much the concentration of red apples and green apples would differ from one person to another, and also within our lives. At some point we'll have more red apple, and some point we'll have more green apples, and that's the way life goes. And why it's like this, we don't know for sure, and we can't attribute the cause, but Ishwara can. So therefore here, I've said that Ishwara is the super accountant. Okay, so Ishwara keeps all these accounts of all our lives, of all these beings and everything, and there is no error, right? So a human accountant can make errors, and they just do a little balance sheet for one company, and they still make loads of errors and still can't get it right, maybe or maybe not. But whereas Ishwara has the account of every single being on this planet, and then dishes out to us these. So in the form of Hiranyagarbha, who kind of gives us this fruit of our action. So the timing, so I've used the word timing here, the timing of what we get, the timing of whether we get a green apple or a red apple, the dosage of what we get, so how sour the apple is or how red the apple is, all that is handed to us by Ishwara, right? So it is ours, but then somebody has to hand it out to us. And this is what Ishwara does, and this is what Hiranyagarbha does. So we'll talk more about Hiranyagarbha and the creation in another talk. But for now, all we need to accept is that this is given to us by Ishwara. And so we have a limited view of what we want, whereas Ishwara has an overall view. So we see things from our point of view. So we see that things happen to us, and and we see it from our point of view, but then there are just so many people's lives and so many people's karma that is intertwined with us, and why we are interacting today, why your friends are who they are. And so it's got to have that timing so perfectly that you actually have to interact with all these people based on what have happened in the past in many ways. So therefore, this is very important to understand. And what Ishwara is giving here is not anything partial. So it's not something, it doesn't think, oh, well, or it doesn't have any agenda. It is just what the fruits that is required, and that this is what we are experiencing, and that's all there is to it. So, I mean, obviously, we also believe that there are the timing and the dosage, especially the dosage of all these karmas, can be also influenced a little bit by some other actions that we do. So for instance, if we pray, if we do certain rituals according to the Vedas, we can attenuate, if you like, the dosage of these things. We can make the reaction a little bit less severe. So we can ask for forgiveness. We can other things can happen. I'm not neglecting all these things, but essentially what I'm saying is that Ishwara is the super accountant, and what is happening to us now, whatever we are experiencing, Ishwara is only dishing out to us, and we have been the creator of all these in the past, and we are responsible to this. So now it is really not helpful for us to kind of say, oh, if we're going through very, very difficult patch, we can't say, oh, what did I do? Oh, I might have been a very, very bad person, or this is, we can't do that. This is because it's very, very fruitless. It's not something that we'd ever know. I mean, some people might know, some people might have knowledge of their past births. Some people really do, but it's not what we need to do. We don't need to go through these things. We don't need to try and because we're probably not going to go to that. I mean, it is good to understand our pattern of thoughts. That's a different thing that we've talked about in the past. We need to know what are the constant thoughts that come into our mind and why they're coming a little bit. But what I'm saying now is that, if we are going through a really, really bad time, we shouldn't kind of try and say why this is happening, what have I done, what may I have done, or whatever. So it is not very helpful at all. Similarly, when life is just so great, and then we're like, oh, what have I done? What am I have done something great? And you might have done, but then it's really not helpful to try and so at that point you just be thankful and you just be very grateful for what you're experiencing, knowing that it will not last. Similarly, knowing that your sour apples will not last as well. So this is what it is. So again, here with the karma theory, with whatever is happening to us, we've got two choices. Okay, so we've got a choice of embracing it and saying, okay, this is why it's happening, and well, thank you. If I need to go through it, I'm going through it now, and I'm supported in this. And if I want to go through it, I might as well go through it now. And I know that it is happening to me because I can actually do something about it, and I can actually withhold it and surmount it. So so we've got the option of doing that, or we've got the option of resisting it, of saying, oh, this is terrible, I don't know why this is happening, this is and just go and then just go in that circle where we kind of almost resisting what's happening to us. I mean, it doesn't mean that we can't have a good moan now and again and we just can't, it doesn't mean any of that. But it just means on the whole, it is to kind of sort of say, right, okay, it is my karma, whatever's happening now, I need to experience it, and I might as well get it out of my accounts so that I don't carry it on to the next birth. Because if we are then taking some other actions as a regard, in what we can do in this life, the actions that we take, what we want to do is minimize the karma in the future, so the fruits in the future. So if we kind of keep resisting, and then we start building resentment, we start building all sorts of things, and then we create more and more karma, and then we get more and more into this this cycle in a way. So it is just to recognize that. Okay, so that was the first, that was the 4 points that I wanted to talk about. So the first one was around recognizing everything as divine, Ishwara as the preserver to feel that protection, and everything is perfect as it should be. And then the fourth one is Ishwara is simply dishing out to us what we have done and the fruit of our action, without any judgment, without any agenda. So then going on to the idea of cultivating devotion in our lives, or this love to Ishwara, so we can really experience it in our lives. So first of all, it's listening to stories from the various scriptures. And when I say scriptures, I'm not talking only about the Vedas, but in other cultures, there are beautiful stories as well that we can listen to and learn quite a lot from. So idea is to listen to these things, to come to different talks, to spend more time in these kind of activities. And here, as usual, the green words are the Sanskrit words for what I'm talking about. So forget them if you don't want to know what they are. But I've just put them for those who find it helpful. And then the second one is singing the glories of the Lord. So reciting hymns, reciting stotras, hymns in the Christian, culture. In all cultures, there are hymns, there are things that we sing the glories, and that's what we do. And then there is remembrance of the Lord's name and presence through continuous prayers. So all cultures do that. And also having this mental attitude. And so in the yoga class now, we've started, sometimes we start the Lord's Prayer, which is a nice one to have if you don't have one of your own. And then the fourth one is serving the Lord and humanity. So serving the Lord directly, and everything that we do is for the Lord, the creation of the Lord, and we're all working, we've got all that really, really crucial part in that creation, and that's what we are here to do, and that's what we will do. And then we also serve humanity, because everything is Ishwara, everything is the manifestation of God. So therefore we have this duty to serve the whole creation, which includes the whole of humanity, whether they are future generations to come, whether they are past generations that have gone. We also kind of do various things for them, and also everyone around us, whether we like them or not, whether they're different color to us, whether they have different beliefs from us, and all that. So our job is to serve the whole of God's creation. And then we worship through rituals and prayers to get rid of the ego. So rituals, some cultures have got more rituals than others, but it's just rituals, things that we do, and prayers to get rid of the ego. So this sense of ego is this, like, I am doing everything, this I that we refer to. And we will talk a lot more about this next week, next time in the next talk, in talk 18 on when we've been talking about karma yoga. I'll talk a lot more about this. And sometimes, we do prayers, we recite these mantras, and we don't really know why, and we don't really understand why. And also sometimes we are doing it for our ego. We're doing it because we want to show off that we can learn all these, we know all these, and we're really clever or whatever. We, you know, that's possible too, and that's fine. So what is said is that if you're doing it for these reasons, it doesn't matter at the beginning. Later on, it will help you. So it doesn't matter what's your motivation to do these rituals, to do these prayers or whatever, but just keep doing them. So once you've got enough faith to get you started, then carry on, basically. Then it is prostration to the Lord to develop humility. So that, you know, we develop that humility within ourselves and don't think that everything happens because of us and we are the greatest, and which kind of leads to all these qualities that we don't want in our lives. And then there is the cultivation of the feeling of being a servant of God. So this is in the Ramayana, again, one of the great scriptures in this culture. Hanuman, the monkey god, was a servant to Lord Ram, and this attitude of being a servant to God, and that's what we are here for. So just cultivating that idea of this is what we're here, that's what we are here for. And then there is the cultivation of friendship. So the cultivation of friendship with God. So God is there for me. God kind of advises me. God tells me what to do. And in the same way that we saw in the scriptures, we see one of these beautiful relationship between Arjuna and Krishna. On the battlefield, and where Krishna and where there is that friendship between the two of them, and also to have that, you know, that conversation with God, to have this idea of embracing that God is on your side and God is here for you. And then finally is complete surrender of the ego. So that's where we are no longer we don't feel that we are the doer, we are the experiencer, because the Atma doesn't do anything, but everything is happening through us. And so this is how we can cultivate devotion in our lives. Then what? So what happens when we are able to experience divine love in that sense? So what happens is we feel protected. We feel that we're being looked after. You know, sometimes we might feel we're being let down by others or whatever, but then we know that then once we've got that faith, which will happen with constant practice, we know that, you know, we have that idea that we'll know that Ishwara will never let us down, and that is the truth. And I've just put human relationships there. So human relationships are a great thing, but we have to realize that humans is not, well, with all our gunas, with all our qualities, we are bound to make errors. We are bound to be inconsistent, whereas Ishwara isn't. Okay, so we want our partners to be completely perfect all the time. And this is not going to happen. We're not perfect all the time ourselves either. Okay, so it is recognition of that. And if we expect people to behave just as we want them to all the time, it's not going to happen. And then if we kind of use this yardstick to measure how well a relationship is going or not, based on what you want, then there will be problems. So I mean, this is a talk for another day, but what I mean is that, you know, while sometimes we kind of feel, oh, I can't count on so-and-so and they've let me down or whatever, these are things that will happen. And this is very normal. And if we are honest with ourselves, we will know when we have let other people down as well. And so therefore, with Ishwara, that doesn't happen. Okay, so Ishwara will never let us down. And if we feel let down, then that's because it's the best thing for us. And that's what needs to happen. And then we become very confident in what we do. We start having that great clarity. and we understand our purpose, we understand why we are here, what we're doing, and also we understand whatever happens, I'll be okay. It doesn't matter that, you know, things are going really badly at work or in some ways of my life, or, you know, everybody around me is just going through a terrible time. But no matter what happens, life has to take its course, but I'll be okay. And also this idea of whatever happens, happens for the best. And that's something that we can cultivate if we kind of have that faith in Ishwara. And then once we've kind of got all that sorted, then life becomes quite easy in many ways. You know, we're not unnecessarily worried. We're not taking on more things than we ought to be taking. It's Ishwara's, Ishwara is there to take some of this weight off our shoulders and this burden away, and let it be, just do it. And then, well, this helps us to love ourselves and love others, have compassion towards others. And then we experience joy and deep happiness, irrespective of what is happening in the world. We are able to tune to that divine love, where we feel in connection with ourselves, where we feel that happiness. And then it really doesn't matter what's happening in the world. It doesn't mean we're not compassionate towards those who are suffering, but on our daily life, we are experiencing that deep joy. And then everything and every day becomes like Valentine's Day, really nice and lovely and full of love. So, so that brings us to the end of today. So we'll conclude with a prayer. Oh. Oh. Om. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.